Welcome back to The Heat. The Republic of Korea has acquired a parcel of land from the Lotte Group for the deployment of the U.S. missile defense system on the Korean peninsula. The retail giant owns over 100 marts and 5 department stores in China. According to reports, many shoppers are now vying to boycott its stores. Chinese authorities have also banned imports from 19 Korean cosmetic brands, and at least 5 Korean television shows are no longer accessible on Chinese video websites. Let's get back to our panel right now. Nathan, you talked about that fact that soap operas can't be seen right now.
Yeah, I mean, South Korean culture, has a lot of effect in Asia. I mean, They have the soap operas, and China makes its own as well, but they're very popular in the region. K-pop, which you can hear absolutely everywhere. There's a lot of trade, obviously. So this could have negative repercussions for the ROK, definitely, and also for Chinese fans of South Korean media. But a larger point here is that, We've seen the TPP pullback, right? From the United States. So ROK, Japan, others all going to hitch their wagons to that. Now there's this sort of fluid situation where's the future of trade and economic investment going to be in Asia? And quite rightly, a lot of people are saying, look, it looks like China's suggestions for RCEP, the ASEAN-based deal would be good. Let's wait and see. So this opportune time, we could be seeing some tensions. So that's obviously, not great. And let's face it, global growth ain't what it used to be.
All right. Tong Zhuo, could China use the trade card insofar as South Korea is concerned to put pressure on South Korea to stop deployment of THAAD?
Well, the Chinese government doesn't adopt explicit policy on trade restriction, but it's the Chinese general public who feel really upset and frustrated about the fact that South Korea has made a decision to go along with the American suggestion of missile defense deployment, which the Chinese public doesn't believe could help secure South Korea, could help protect South Korea from possible North Korean threat. But this deployment is really the decision was made by South Korea under pressure from the United States, and the consequences for China would be very negative. So the Chinese general public feel very puzzled why South Korea has to choose side between Washington and Beijing and doesn't take adequate consideration of Chinese interests into its decision making. So I think they are taking measures to boycott, markets of South Korean companies, and to boycott South Korea videos, TV dramas, etc. So I think the message that the Chinese general public wants to send to South Korea is South Korea really needs the cooperation of China to help rein in North Korea, to help contain the development of WMD program in North Korea. And China was very much willing to help, but South Korea should take consideration of Chinese key national interests in its decision over missile defense.
All right, a lot of moving pieces. Brian, of course, there are other big companies, big multinational companies like Samsung, Hyundai, South Korean companies. Their biggest market is China. In fact, they have plants in China, so they must be aware of that.
Yeah, I don't think they're happy. I don't even think the Lotte Corporation is happy. I think this shows that when push comes to shove, politics determines outcomes more than business interests, at least in the Korean Peninsula. And what are the politics of South Korea? South Korea is an occupied country. It has tens of thousands of American troops. They've been there since 1950, since the onset of the Korean War. No country is completely sovereign and independent and able to make its own decisions when foreign soldiers occupy its territory. For a big part of those 6 decades, the American government and the Pentagon and the American CIA determined what the South Korean state and its political apparatus would look like. So I think what we're witnessing here is South Korean business interests, environmental interests, popular interests are being sacrificed at the altar of a government interest, and the government interest in this case is being determined by the impact of the foreign military, the Pentagon. Why did General James Mattis rush. It was the first place he went after Trump came into office, to Korea and Japan, not simply to reassure those countries that Trump was going to abrogate treaty obligations. I think the Trump administration, and the Pentagon in particular, maybe more than Trump the person, was concerned that unless they reasserted American influence/domination, things could get out of hand, meaning the people's popular will could start to show its impact on Korean decision-making, especially when it came to THAAD.
Nathan, what about diplomatic efforts to resolve this crisis? As Brian mentioned earlier on, we had this, what they call the Track 2 talks, this North America, at least the DPRK senior officials meeting with former US officials. That was effectively nixed by the Trump administration. There's the six-party talks. Whatever happened to them?
Well, exactly, and you know that China's been on the record, and it's worth saying this, in combination of ratcheting up sanctions on the DPRK at the United Nations Security Council, China has always said, look, we also should push for talks as well. And that policy hasn't changed. And, Trump has actually said on the campaign trail and in office as president that he's not ruling out talking to Kim Jong-un. He wouldn't rule it out. And obviously Beijing would play a part in that. The trouble is at the moment, and as we found out with the visit of the State Council, Yang Jiechi, this week, is that there are several voices still in the administration when it comes to making foreign policy. Yes, the US administration. Yeah. We have Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, for example. We have H.R. McMaster, the new national security advisor, who may be more traditional role, and then we have people like Stephen Bannon and others as well. So, and that's not settled yet, and Rex Tillerson, of course, the secretary, and that's not settled yet. It's obvious, especially when it comes to Asia. They've still got a lot of hiring to do in terms of actual number twos and number threes in terms of the departments. So any talks are going to be a bit of a way off unless the US can get its act together.
Right. What do you think, Tong Chua? Is there a diplomatic way out of this? Do you see talks happening soon?
I think there is still hope. The recent decision of the US State Department of not giving visa to the North Korean officials to start this Track 2 dialogue is an unfortunate development, but I don't think that closes the door for diplomatic engagement. The reason of why they decided to not grant a visa is because this Track 2 level dialogue has been exposed too much to the media. Yeah. It has been in the limelight for too long a time and has raised all attention internationally. And therefore, when there was this recent news that this killing of a North Korean citizen in Malaysia might be conducted by using internationally prohibited chemical weapon agent, that makes the State Department feel it's not a good time to invite North Korean officials to visit. So I think maybe after this recent development over Malaysia started to fade away, Track 2 or Track 1.5 level engagement could still take place between US and North Korea. In his most recent State of Union speech, Mr. Trump actually said, America respects the right of all nations to choose their own path of development, which is interpreted by some commentators as saying that he doesn't really care whether North Korea keeps its current political system or chooses another political system, as long as North Korea would like to cooperate with the U.S. to contain its missile and nuclear development. The U.S. would be interested in talking with them. So I think there is still hope.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks to all of you for joining us.